Controlling the masses, building the tension. Hi, I'm Lisa from Twilio. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm really excited to be here. I'm doing a tour through Eastern Europe at the moment. I'm actually mainly responsible for Eastern Europe, so you're gonna see a lot of me in the future. So yeah, there's like this kind of trend going on, and I'm going to join this, and I will talk about epic product flops. And I thought, okay, we've done like a lot of personal sharing, but I also want to make you feel a little bit comfortable that, for instance, the big guys who supposedly should have an idea what they're actually doing, they don't. Because they fail, and when they fail really big, and mostly also like really in a very embarrassing way. So this is like probably like a comedy stand-up, and I hope you will laugh with me a lot. Right. So, and that is not the first slide. I'm sorry. See, starting with my own failure. No. I'm gonna do that. Okay, I'm just gonna do it that way. And then I'll just join over. Anyway, so, first thing is, I'm talking a lot about cars. My husband is an automotive designer. I know far too much about cars. Who likes cars? Like the fast one? Yeah. Okay, we can talk about it later. Anyway, so, does anybody know this car? That particular one? So, it's called the Ford Edsel. And it was released in 1958 to 1960, and it completely went bust. It cost the company a lot of money, a lot of millions. And what you have to understand back in that time, I'll just like switch back to, because it looks so ugly pretty. So back in that time, what happened in America, 1958? Does anybody know? Economic crisis. So there was a company which launched a luxury brand and completely, forgot about it. People actually run out of money and they have to sell their houses. Sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? So you had that before. And they just went with that into the market. Also, it was called Edsel. So it sounds a little bit funny, like pretzel or something. It's also very important with the product name. Right. So hopefully I can switch back to the big slides now. Yeah. Okay. We all know that guy. He's the god of like the best products ever, and he would never fail, wouldn't he? I have a story for you. Can anybody remember this? I had one of those. Huge, heavy, you can kill somebody when you throw it. I didn't do that, I had one of those. It was called a Newton. So it was like one of those typewriter pads, which was supposed to be like the very, very, very first one for the product before the Kindle. And it completely flopped. It was hyped until like, for like the same, it had the same kind of launch process as the iPod. It was supposed to be like changing the world. It didn't. As I said, it was huge, it was heavy, it cost a lot of money. I remember when I got it, I got it as a present to review it. Otherwise I actually would have never been able to afford it. It also didn't work. You would expect for like 600 to 1,000 bucks, huge thing. It didn't work. That comes from Apple, the company which is supposed to make everything work and pretty. Well, they didn't do that well this time. Can anybody remember Bob? Microsoft users? Hello? So, I like dogs, but they can become a little bit annoying when they just jump into your computer and run around on your screen. So, Bob was supposed to be a helper for you. It got installed into the Microsoft system. First problem was it actually didn't work on a lot of systems, which you would kind of like to have that. And we actually had to pay for it, so it didn't just come with a release. And it was like so annoying. Like if you can remember, if you Google Bob and look Bob Comedy or Irony or something like that, 1995, there were a lot of hilarious satire setups made around Bob, in very also inappropriate connections, but so it just became absolutely ridiculous. And it also had this like really annoying habit that it was just like jumping into your face during your presentation all the time. So, that is one of my favorites.
What? What?
Has anybody seen that before? So, Colgate, you know Colgate, the toothpaste? Right, so Colgate thought, okay, they're going to be like really super smart because they want to do diversify, you know, one of those buzzwords. Probably one of the marketing people went on another bullshit conference and, you know, marketing conference and like, okay, we have to diversify, we have to try something new, we need to, you know, we need to expand our market. And then they came up with Colgate frozen food. And I remember I interviewed somebody, he actually told me that story, and the funny thing was like everybody would have told him, if they would have shared their ideas, everybody would have told him it's a bad idea. But they thought like, no, this is going to go like, you know, in German you say it's like sold like warm rolls, like warme Semmeln, you know, it will just fly out of the shelves. No, so they just didn't understand a very simple thing. Is like people recognize when you have a brand, people recognize you for a certain connection to a brand, for a certain task, for a certain market. And if you then all of a sudden share something else, it might would have worked if they would have rebranded it in a completely different name. So, for instance, you know, Unilever. You know, the beauty phrase. So there is a reason why Unilever doesn't launch everything until Unilever, because you know you have like Nivea as its brand, and then you have like Nivea Men, and you have like all of the other cheap products. You even probably don't know that it's from Unilever, but they're very successful with that. Maybe you know the Colgate should have had a look at them, but see where is my.
Ken.
I never played with Barbies, I always played with Legos, but that's probably why I ended up studying IT and engineering in the end. That was, can anybody know? That was a magic can earring. It got launched in 1993. And it was supposed to be cool. It was supposed to be a statement from the company to like, you know, going into like this whole, you know, we want to again diversify. It was kind of a theme. They probably Colgate and the Mattel guy probably went to the same conference back then. Happens. They wanted to develop a new market, so they wanted to diversify. They wanted to go for the men, for the men market, and they got it a bit wrong. Also, like the entire gay community went completely outrageous because they saw it as a very derogatory way, because like it didn't, you know, it was supposed to be ironic, but it actually really felt really bad. It was very embarrassing for them, and I think they burned all of those men somewhere and buried them. Which like some companies do, they just bury things and then you can dig them out after 20 years. Right, okay, see. And finally, that's not Google Classes, I can tell you that. Maybe I have a presentation for that in a couple of years, we will see.
Yeah, that's really cool.
3D classes. So, I know there was like a big hype. I recently saw the sales numbers for 3D TV and glasses, and it was a completely hype. Everybody had to have it. Everybody. You know, if you want to be cool, you know, you have to have 3D. For the consumer space, meaning the consumer space at home, it completely went bust. Entirely. And I don't know, has anybody of you like a 3D, or had somebody of you a 3D television at home? Do you still have it? Yeah, right. So I was thinking, I mean, like, we can talk about failure, and you know, it's good to fail, and you have to fail fast, and big and small and whatsoever. But in the end of the day, we should learn out of it. Because actually what all of those people do, they actually do the work for you, because you don't have to do the mistake on your own, but also they test the market for you. So, you know, watch your competition, watch the market. Because when they fail, super, you know, when they don't fail, go in with them. Right, let's define it. So, why do products fail? Nice to have, but not compelling. Anybody has an example for that? Can you remember those little eggs when you had as kids with that little chicken thingy in there? So the Tamagotchi, yeah, thank you very much. That like worked for a year and was just like completely gone, so it was nice to have. But they couldn't pivot, they couldn't, like, after that it was just busted. Didn't meet the needs of the audience. Well, yeah, 3D classes. I don't know, it was really expensive back then, wasn't it? Yeah, what are you doing with that? Did you throw it out of your window?
Thankfully, my parents bought one.
Oh God, excellent. Before its time, we've seen a lot of products who, you know, that is a very, very painful experience, that you've been there far, far early. I don't know, FriendFeed, for instance, who compared, got all of the social media together into one channel. I think it was awesome. They just launched far too early. If they would launch now again, they probably would have a chance, but like the branding is like kind of bust. So it's really sad. Well, no market. So there is, you have to. I'm going to go to that point a little bit later, because this is it's really important. No market for the product, and not big enough. There's also a point that you have to go into the niche. So you have enough to sell for that. But I know that, you know, you all love your product, but the thing is always, you know, how can I sell it and how many people can sell it? So if you work on maybe a toothbrush for left-handers who like only is available in pink and sings jingle bells, then I don't know how many people will buy it. And of course, marketing. We just earlier before we talked about like what is more important, the marketing or the product. Well, you know, if you have a good product, you know, if you look like at Magic Hand, for instance, like the quality of the product was there, it kind of looked pretty, but the timing when they launched it and the way how they marketed it, but like it completely threw it off. So, you know, it's good to talk with, you know, marketing people, and, you know, don't send them to all of the conferences all the time. And of course, product doesn't work. I mean, that's a no-brainer. But you wouldn't believe like how many products there are actually out there who really don't work, but they get like such a hype from marketing. And the thing is, from that you never can recover. So, you know, we're going into Internet of Things, and there are a lot of hardware products out there. It's very super exciting, but you know, if you can't deliver on your super fancy marketing campaign, people will never forgive you. If you fail and something goes wrong, for instance, like your servers go down, you apologize, you can recover for that. But like when people spend money on a product and it doesn't work, you know, had for instance, the Colgate food, even though, you know, they would even have ate it, but if it like would taste like toothpaste, they would buy it once and then never again. So, I'm mentoring a lot of startups, and like one of the things what I always get asked on that point is like, yeah, so all of the people who didn't fail, were they just like lucky? Because I mean, you know, there's so many opportunities out there to fail. And then I always, answer with that sentence and say like, luck is when opportunity meets preparation. So, that's very tweetable, by the way. I just want to explore a little bit with you about what types of opportunities are out there, and I've just mentioned it earlier. So, first approach, of course, we live in a market which is over-exaggerated and has like a lot of the same products, copycat business and stuff like that. We have like 5-6 different versions of like the BlaBlaCar, for instance. But there is a way how BlaBlaCar is different from everybody else. It's like the personality touch, for instance. That you have like that blah ratio. That is awesome. So, but when you look at BlaBlaCar, it's just it's in the end of the day, it's pretty similar to everything else, but it's completely diversified in a way which is it can be faster, better, cheaper. It's a niche. The little thing. So it can be a really nice idea. Technically, it probably doesn't make a lot of difference to, I don't know, car sharing pool or Uber. I don't want to step on your toes too much, I know. But, because that also gets you to the point, like, where does your product makes a difference, and also that's at the same time, it will remove hopefully a little bit of your fear of like going in a very over-exaggerated market. Where do you make your difference? Do that not only with your mum, but like with as many people as possible. If you can answer one of those, that is like the first step to not fail. Develop the market. So Twilio, for instance, so we are a voice over IP API. We disrupted a $2 trillion market of dinosaurs, and when we started there wasn't a market. Like, everybody is going to the telcos and nobody has an idea that you can use an API for text messages and voice calls. So you just go out there and develop it yourself. So with Twilio, for instance, we spend a lot of time building credibility. We're spending a lot of time going in the community and help them. Like, we don't do sales that often, to be honest. We just go out there and say, okay, how can we help? Which is also a very nice way to do market research. But it's a very, very rewarding way to do it. It's very genuine, it's very authentic, and with that you also create stories. And there is nothing else in the world what people like more than stories. At the moment where you can tell a powerful story, people will remember you. They probably don't remember like how your product works, but it's like, hey, that was cool. Talking about powerful stories, we just launched a case study with our voice product. So we created Parkinson Voice Initiative. So Parkinson's disease is very, very difficult to actually grab. It costs a lot of money. You have to go to the hospital. That takes a lot of time. A UK professor wrote an algorithm where he found out he can diagnose Parkinson's disease within 30 seconds based on your voice. So he teamed up with Twilio, and now there is an open phone number where you can call. It records your voice for 30 seconds, the algorithm runs through, and it can make an almost really accurate diagnosis of like if you have Parkinson, on which state are you at. Things like that, we just support. There's no money behind that. It's an open source, it's in beta, everybody can use it. Please Google Parkinson Voice Initiative. They need voices for the research, so please join. Right, okay. Next point. You still follow me, right? You still not asleep? Excellent. Probably have to drop something at some stage. I can throw bottles later on, or you at me. The thing is, of course we don't want to fail. Of course we have a little bit of fear of failure. The best way, what I always tell people, talk with somebody else. Again, if those Colgate people, please would have talked talk with anybody else outside of their offices, they would have gotten the impression that it wouldn't be that much of a good idea to launch a food product on a toothpaste brand. You know, it's a non-brainer. But sometimes when you live with your product, you know, when you're so much in love, you can get completely lost in the woods. And then you need somebody in like a nice giving, or maybe also in a harsh way, you know, open criticism. You need that. Talk with as many people as possible. Not only with your mum, and not only with your partner, not only with your friends. Random people, and with that also you train your pitch. So remember, you know, you have to go down into 2 minutes. As often you run your product by somebody, you train it, but also at the same time you get feedback. And most of the time also questions like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, you know, the way how you respond to that is like, good question, I will come back to you. Can I have your email? I'll follow up with you. Right, so in the end, I mean, I can go on and on and on. Oh yeah, right. I'll promise I will be quick. So, as I just mentioned, I started out as an engineer myself, and I just like moved more and more in project managing and marketing, so I know like a little bit of both worlds. So since we are like here a little bit of a mixed group, there's like one thing I really would like to get close to your heart. Not only talk with people outside the company, talk with them in between when it comes down to when you work on your product. So that means, for instance, while developers, you know, while you're in your debugging and data process, can you please talk with your sales guys and with your marketing people what kind of feedback they got out of the field when people calling in? Because the developers sit in the other room and the marketing people sit there. When you just like talk with them in like meetings or something like that, go out for a beer in the morning, while you brush your teeth with Colgate and eat the food afterwards. No, seriously, like it sounds super simple, like yes, of course we do that, but little things like that make all of the difference. That doesn't mean that developers do have to, you know, talk with, you know, the customers all of the time, although it works sometimes. Right. So, just in the end, in case, you know, who's this person, who's Twilio, we've been around since late 2007, officially 2008. We are based in San Francisco. We are like 264 by now. I checked this morning. We're hiring, by the way. Altogether we raised 110 million. We're like in round D now. We are processing 3.5 billion phone calls a day, and we have around like 200,000 customers. And all of that started with their products already out there, but they are all dinosaurs, and I want to make it better, faster, and cheaper. And that started with our founder Jeff, and he, out of frustration, and he just started with that, with nothing else. And also he had a good network, but you know, you're working on that now because you're here. Just as a little meme in terms of APIs, so you're all working on something, you know, so you create a sandwich, let's do it like that. So the API is like your mayonnaise, because you know, if you want to create a sandwich, you don't have to grow your tomatoes, you might do that later, and you don't have to make your own mayonnaise. But you want to have the best product to make the best sandwich, don't you? So, you know, for Bubbleworth, for BlaBlaCar, we do that with Uber, Airbnb. Everything what they do with text message and voice calling implementation comes from the Twilio API. So they have a lot of mayonnaise, good mayonnaise. And just in the end, we have a data bank with doers, with local doers. If you go to twilio.com/doers, so there are people who get familiar with our API, they have a profile on our website. We have a lot of customers who come to the website and need somebody for a Twilio implementation, so you know, for freelancers it's probably really nice. But also when we keep those doers very close to our hearts, so you know, I'm meeting local doers here, for instance, we can give them credits, and also of course if we do our international round, when we invite people to join us for conferences in San Francisco, the doers are usually the first ones we call because they're very close to our heart. So, if you want to get a little bit closer to me, it also can go wrong. No, it can. Check it out. I'm here for the next 2 days. I'm breakfast tomorrow morning. So just watch this Twitter stream. I'm going to share the link for the venue later on. Feel free and join me, and I can talk more about mayonnaise and Colgate and anything else. And yeah, so I'm here for the next 2 days. If you want me to meet you at your startup, I would really love to see some offices. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.